The rain fell like needles against the black umbrellas, each drop a tiny percussion in the symphony of grief that surrounded Margaret Sullivan's grave. I stood there, October 15th, 2024, watching my world dissolve into mud and memory. Dad! Emily's voice broke through the drumming rain. Dad! Please! My daughter's arms wrapped around me from behind, her designer coat already soaked through. Strange how even in grief I noticed these things. The coat was new, probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Margaret would have tucked at the extravagance, but she would have kept that thought to herself. She always did when it came to Emily. She's really gone, I said, the words feeling foreign in my mouth, like trying to speak underwater. I know, Dad. I know, Emily's tears mixed with the rain on my shoulder. But you're not alone, you'll never be alone. I promise you that. The cemetery stretched out before us. Greenwood's ancient oaks bending under the weight of water and wind. 150 people had come to say goodbye to Margaret. Neighbors, friends from her book club, workers from my construction company. But now, as the last of them headed to their cars, it was just family. Or what was left of it. David Chen stood 20 feet away, holding his own umbrella, giving us space but unable to leave entirely. 5 years he'd been with Emily. 5 years of Sunday dinners, of helping me fix the deck, of Margaret teaching him her secret recipe for apple pie. The engagement ring he'd bought was still in his apartment in Queens. Emily didn't know that, but I did. He'd shown it to me 3 weeks ago, asked for my blessing. Margaret had been there, propped up in her hospital bed, smiling despite the pain. That boy loves you more than life itself, she'd told Emily that day. But Emily had been checking her phone, distracted by something. Come on, Dad, Emily said now, tugging at my arm. Let's get you home, you're shaking. Just give me one more minute. She nodded, kissed my cheek. When was the last time she'd done that? And walked toward David. I watched her take his hand, saw the way his shoulders relaxed at her touch. Good, they needed each other now. That's when I saw him. Standing by a mausoleum 50 yards away, no umbrella, just letting the rain soak through his clothes. Tall, broad-shouldered, with that same stubborn chin I saw in the mirror every morning. Marcus, my son, my secret, my shame. Our eyes met across the sea of headstones. 35 years of silence condensed into that single look. He nodded once, acknowledgement, nothing more, then turned and walked away. My chest tightened. Margaret had known, of course. She'd known everything. But she'd forgiven me, kept the secret, even sent money for his medical school. Everyone deserves a father, she'd said, even if it's just a check in the mail. Dad, Emily had returned, David beside her now. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. No, I turned back to Margaret's grave. The headstone was simple, elegant, just like her, Margaret Ann Sullivan. Beloved wife and mother, her love lives on. Mr. Sullivan, David said quietly, if you need anything, anything at all. I looked at this young man who loved my daughter, who'd spent every evening at the hospital these last 2 months, who'd held Margaret's hand when the morphine made her forget who we were. Thank you, David, your family. Emily squeezed his hand tighter. We should tell him, she said to David, then turned to me. Dad, we have something. Not now, David interrupted gently. This isn't the time. But it might cheer him up to know. Emily, his voice was firm but kind. Not now. She nodded, but I saw something flash across her face. Irritation? Disappointment? It was gone before I could identify it. Let me just... I knelt by the grave, my knees sinking into the wet grass. The rain had turned the fresh earth into mud. I placed my hand on the headstone, the granite cold and final under my palm. I'll take care of her, Margaret, I whispered. I'll make sure she stays true to everything you taught her. About love, about loyalty, about what really matters. Dad, Emily knelt beside me, heedless of her expensive coat in the mud. I promise you, I'm going to live exactly the way Mom taught me. Her values, her principles, they're my North Star. I swear it. I'll make you both proud. The rain intensified, driving everyone toward their cars. As I stood, my hand went to my jacket pocket, where 3 envelopes pressed against my chest. Margaret's final mystery. 3 letters, each with specific instructions. The first, when she betrays you, she'd whispered that last night, her voice barely audible. The second, when you must choose between love and principle. The third is for the one who proves worthy. I'd tried to ask what she meant, but she just smiled that knowing smile. You'll understand when it's time, Robert. You always do, eventually. Now, walking toward the parking lot, Emily on one arm and David steadying me on the other, I wondered what Margaret had seen that I couldn't. What storm was coming that she'd tried to prepare me for. I love you, Dad, Emily said as we reached the cars. Mom's gone, but you've still got me. Forever and always. Forever and always, I repeated, though the words felt like a prayer for something I was about to lose. David opened his Honda Civic's door for Emily, always the gentleman. She kissed my cheek once more before getting in. As they drove away, I stood in the rain watching their taillights disappear into the gray afternoon. In 6 months, everything would shatter. But standing there, rain-soaked and grief-stricken, all I knew was that my daughter loved me. Her boyfriend cherished her, and somewhere in this cemetery my wife's love still lingered like morning mist on the lake. The opposite of what was coming. 6 months had passed since Margaret's funeral. April 12, 2025. The dining room that had once echoed with her laughter now felt different. Even with the same china, the same oak table, the same view of the garden she'd loved. But tonight was supposed to be about new beginnings. 5 years, David said, raising his wine glass, his hand trembling slightly. 5 years since I literally ran into Emily at that craft fair and spilled coffee all over her favorite dress. It was vintage Chanel. Emily laughed, but the sound was hollow, like she was performing for an audience. She kept checking her phone, placing it face down each time, then picking it up again 30 seconds later. I watched them from my seat at the head of the table. David had asked me to host this anniversary dinner. Said he had something special planned. The man had been nervous all week. Earlier, while Emily was upstairs, he'd shown me the ring again. "Mr. Sullivan, I know I showed you before, but do you think she'll like it?" He'd pulled out the small velvet box, hands shaking. Inside was a simple solitaire. Nothing flashy, but the diamond caught the light perfectly. It had taken him 2 years to save for it. I knew because I'd offered to help, and he'd refused. "I need to earn it," he'd said. "That's what real love is, right? Earning it every day." Now, watching Emily avoid his eyes, something cold settled in my stomach. The new server, the agency had sent her just for tonight, moved silently around the table, refilling water glasses. Asian woman, maybe mid-40s, efficient and invisible the way good service should be. But something about her seemed familiar. The way she moved, perhaps, military precision. "Emily," David started, reaching for his jacket pocket. I wanted to, David, wait. Emily's voice cut through the room like a blade. "I need to tell you something." The server, Victoria, her name tag said, froze for just a second while pouring water. A splash hit the tablecloth. "So sorry," she murmured, dabbing at it with a napkin. "What is it, honey?" David's voice was concerned now, the ring box still hidden in his pocket. Emily stood up. In heels, she towered over the table, and for a moment she looked exactly like Margaret had when she'd told me about Marcus all those years ago. The same straight spine, the same lifted chin. But Margaret's eyes had been full of pain. Emily's were cold. "I'm getting married," she said. David laughed, confused. "Well, yeah, I hope so. That's actually why—" "No." She cut him off. "I'm getting married to Alexander Hartford. Next month." The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the grandfather clock in the hallway, each tick like a gunshot. David's face went white, then red, then white again. "What?" The word came out strangled. "Emily, what are you talking about? Is this some kind of joke?" "It's not a joke." She lifted her left hand. A massive diamond caught the light. 3 carats at least, surrounded by smaller stones. The kind of ring that screamed money from across a room. "Alexander proposed last week." I said yes. "Last week." I found my voice. "Emily, you were here last week. With David. You were planning your vacation to Maine. About that." She wouldn't meet my eyes. "I won't be going to Maine." David stood up so fast his chair fell backward. The crash made everyone jump except Victoria, who smoothly stepped back against the wall, still watching. "Emily, what the hell is going on? Who is Alexander Hartford? You've never even mentioned." The doorbell rang. "That's him now," Emily said, checking her phone. "I asked him to come. We should all meet, don't you think? Since we're going to be family. You invited him here?" My voice was deadly quiet. "To my house? To David's anniversary dinner. Dad, please. Just give him a chance, you'll love him. Everyone does." I heard the front door open. Emily must have given him a key already. And footsteps in the hallway. Expensive shoes on hardwood. Then he appeared in the doorway, and I understood everything. Alexander Hartford was everything David wasn't. 6'3", built like a swimmer, with that particular combination of features that only generations of good breeding and better nutrition could produce. His suit probably cost more than David made in 3 months. His watch, a Patek Philippe, cost more than most people's houses. "Mr. Sullivan," he said, extending his hand like he owned the room. "Alexander Hartford. I've heard so much about you. Your reputation in construction is legendary." I didn't take his hand. "How long?" "I'm sorry? How long have you been seeing my daughter?" Emily jumped in. "Dad, it just happened. These things." 3 months, Alexander said smoothly, his hand dropping. "We met at the Hartford Foundation Charity Gala in January. Emily was volunteering. 3 months. while David was saving for a ring, while he was nursing Emily through the flu, while he was helping me sort through Margaret's things. You lying bitch. The words came from Victoria, who had dropped all pretense of being a server. Her accent was pure Queen's now, with an edge of fury. 3 months of sneaking around while this good man— Excuse me. Emily whirled on her. Who the hell are you? Nobody, Victoria said, composing herself. Just someone who knows trash when she sees it. How dare you? Emily. David's voice was broken. 3 months. While I was. He pulled out the ring box, set it gently on the table. I was going to propose tonight. Your dad knew. I thought, God, I'm such an idiot. David. Emily started toward him, but Alexander stepped between them. I think it's best if you leave now. Alexander said to David. This is a family matter. Family. David laughed, but it was an ugly sound. I've been family for 5 years. You've been here 5 minutes. And yet Alexander smiled. She chose me. That's when David swung. It wasn't a good punch. David was a craftsman, not a fighter, but it connected with Alexander's jaw, sending him stumbling back. David, no! Emily screamed. That's assault, Alexander said, touching his lip, checking for blood. I could have you arrested. Do it, David said. Please, give me the excuse. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Robert Sullivan? The voice was old, gravelly, with a Boston accent thick as molasses. Who is this? Jonathan Hartford, Alexander's grandfather. I understand there's been some excitement at your dinner party. How did you— I know everything that concerns my family, Mr. Sullivan. Now listen carefully. Your daughter has made a choice, a smart choice. The merger of our families could be very profitable for everyone. Your construction company, for instance. I understand you're bidding on the harbor development project. What about it? That's a $40 million contract. Could set you up for life. Could also go to someone else. Someone more cooperative. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you an opportunity. Alexander has some papers with him, a simple partnership agreement. Sign it and everybody wins. Don't sign it and, well, construction can be a dangerous business. Accidents happen. I hung up. Alexander was dabbing his lip with a napkin Emily had handed him. Actually, Mr. Sullivan, since I'm here, he reached into his jacket, pulled out a folder. My grandfather wanted me to give you this. It's a partnership proposal. Very generous terms. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. You knew about this whole thing, the marriage, the business deal. You're selling yourself. I'm being practical, she said, lifting her chin. Love doesn't pay bills, Dad. David's sweet, but Alexander can give me the life I deserve. The life you deserve. I stood up slowly. Your mother is rolling in her grave. Mom would understand. She always said to marry someone who could take care of me. She said to marry someone who would love you the way I loved her. A knock at the dining room door. Another woman entered. Young, blonde, nervous. Mr. Hartford, I'm sorry to interrupt. Mr. Mitchell sent me with these additional documents. He said they were urgent. Rachel Thompson, Thomas's new assistant. What was she doing here at 8 o'clock on a Friday night? Perfect timing, Alexander said, taking the papers. Rachel, isn't it? Could you witness some signatures? David walked out without another word. I heard his car start, the tires squeal as he left. Victoria followed him, but not before catching my eye and mouthing silently. Be careful. Emily stood there in her designer dress, her obscene ring catching the light. A stranger in my house. Get out, I said quietly. All of you, get out of my house. Dad, now. They left. Alexander's hand on Emily's back, proprietary. Rachel trailing behind, typing something rapidly on her phone. I stood alone in my dining room. David's ring box still on the table. Margaret's chair empty. Her ghost everywhere and nowhere at once. The first letter. Margaret had said to open it when Emily betrayed me. The Plaza Hotel had never looked more magnificent or felt more like a mausoleum. May 12, 2025. 1 month after that disastrous dinner, I stood in the back of the grand ballroom, watching my daughter marry a stranger. 500 guests, ice sculptures that cost more than most weddings, a string quartet flown in from Vienna, and Emily radiant in a $50,000 Vera Wang gown, smiling like she'd won the lottery, which I supposed she had. Beautiful ceremony, wasn't it? I turned. The voice was familiar but impossible. Marcus stood beside me, wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo, holding a champagne flute like he belonged here. What are you doing here? I kept my voice low, steady. I was invited. He pulled out an ivory invitation, Margaret's handwriting clear on the envelope. She sent it to me 6 months ago, before she died. Said I should come to Emily's wedding, no matter what. Guess Mom knew something we didn't. Mom. He'd never called her that before. Never called her anything. She knew a lot of things, I said, watching Emily and Alexander's first dance. More than she ever told me. Story of our family, isn't it? Marcus sipped his champagne. Secrets within secrets. By the way, you should know, the Hartfords are worse than you think. I've been treating Jonathan Hartford at Mass General. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. Man's got maybe 6 months, and he's desperate to secure his legacy. This wedding? It's not about love. It's about something bigger. Before I could respond, he melted back into the crowd. I needed air. I headed toward the terrace, but voices from the bridal suite anteroom stopped me cold. Told you to be careful. Emily's voice sharp with panic. Relax, your father suspects nothing. That was Rachel Thompson's voice. What was Thomas's assistant doing in the bridal suite? I pressed against the wall, hidden by a massive flower arrangement. He needs to sign those papers, Emily. Jonathan's getting impatient. I'm working on it. After the honeymoon, Alexander will about us, about the baby. My blood froze. Emily laughed, ugly and bitter. God, no. You think he'd marry me if he knew I'd been setting him up? That you're pregnant with his child? This is our game, Rachel. We get the Sullivan Company, merge it with Hartford Industries, and then when the prenup's void after a year, I divorce him and we split everything, including your child support. And your father? He's old, sentimental. Once the company's gone, he'll have nothing. He'll have to depend on me, and then I control everything Mom left. That life insurance policy, the properties. I ducked into the men's room, splashed water on my face, stared at my reflection. In my jacket pocket, Margaret's first letter seemed to burn through the fabric. When I emerged, the Hartford family table was in full swing. Jonathan Hartford held court at the center, skeleton thin but eyes sharp as a hawk's. He saw me and raised his glass in mock salute. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A text. Check your office email. Now. Minna V. Victoria. She was here somewhere, watching. I found a quiet corner, pulled up my email on my phone. A voice recording, sent 1 minute ago. I put in my earbuds, hit play. Emily's voice recorded earlier today. The old fool actually thinks I love David. Can you believe it? 5 years of playing the devoted girlfriend, and Dad bought it completely. Mom was the only one who suspected, but she's gone now. Once we get Dad's company, the Hartfords can launder their money through legitimate construction contracts. It's perfect. Alexander's voice. And your father won't fight it? He's too broken after Mom, weak, just like David was. God, if I had to pretend to love that pathetic carpenter one more day. I ripped out the earbuds, headed for the exit. Robert, there you are. Thomas Mitchell, my lawyer, intercepted me. We need to talk. Now. He pulled me into an empty conference room. 3 of your board members just sold their shares to Hartford Industries. Jim, Carl, and Patricia. Jonathan Hartford now owns 31% of Sullivan Construction. That's impossible. We have a buy-sell agreement, which Emily somehow got access to and modified. 3 months ago. She used her power of attorney from when Margaret was sick. Robert, I'm sorry, but your daughter, she's been planning this for a while. My phone rang. David, Mr. Sullivan. His voice was thick, slurred. I'm at Mount Sinai Emergency. 3 guys jumped me outside my apartment. Kept saying to forget Emily. Forget everything. I think my ribs are broken. David, stay there. I'm coming. No. A woman's voice took the phone. Victoria. I've got him. But Robert, listen to me. This is bigger than a family dispute. The Hartfords are connected to the Bratva Russian mob. Your son-in-law isn't just rich. He's dangerous. David was a warning. Next time could be worse. The room spun. I sat down heavily, pulled out Margaret's letter. My dearest Robert, if you're reading this, then Emily has shown her true nature. I've known for 2 years that our daughter values money over love. I watched her with David, saw the performance, the lies. I'm sorry I didn't tell you, but you wouldn't have believed me. You always saw the best in her, just as you saw the best in me. Emily has been in contact with the Hartfords since before I got sick. She chose them, Robert. She chose money. But I've prepared for this. Check the safety deposit box at Chase, the one you don't know about. Box 472. The key is taped under my jewelry box. There's more. July 11th, 2025. 2 months since the wedding. I sat in my home office at 3 in the morning, Margaret's second letter trembling in my hands. The house felt like a tomb, too quiet, too empty, too full of ghosts. Robert, if you're reading this, they've shown their hand. Good, now it's time to show yours. Stop reacting, start attacking. The man I married wouldn't let anyone destroy what we built. The father I know wouldn't let his daughter destroy herself, even if she's chosen this path. Fight back, my love, not with their weapons, lies, and violence, but with truth and strategy. You are always the better chess player. The Hartfords think they've won because they have money and connections, but you have something more valuable. You know how to build. They only know how to destroy. Trust Thomas, but verify everything. Trust Victoria completely. She's not who she seems, and that's to your advantage. And Robert, it's time to acknowledge Marcus. He's your son. Use that. All my love, Margaret. P.S. Remember the foundation work you did for the Hartford Tower in 2010? Check the permits. Check everything. I set down the letter, picked up Margaret's photo from my desk. Our last anniversary. Both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember now. You knew everything, didn't you? I said to her image. Every move, every betrayal. You saw it all coming and prepared the battlefield for me. A knock at my door at 3:15 a.m. should have startled me. Instead, I'd been expecting it. Come in, Thomas. My lawyer entered, looking haggard. He'd driven straight from the city. Robert, we have a problem. Rachel Thompson broke into my office tonight. Security caught her, but not before she'd photographed your will, your trust documents, everything. She has it all, every page. The Hartfords know exactly what Emily stands to inherit. 8 million in assets, the company shares, the properties. Robert, they're going to use this. Good. Thomas blinked. Good. Let them think they've won. Meanwhile, we're changing everything. I want Emily cut out completely. Every penny, every share, every memory. Transfer it all to a trust. For who? David Chen. Thomas's eyebrows shot up. David? Robert, are you sure? The courts could challenge it, claim undue influence or diminished capacity. Then we make it ironclad. David's not just some stranger. He's the man who loved my daughter truly, who helped care for Margaret, who's lying in a hospital bed because he dared to oppose the Hartfords. There's something else, Thomas said, pulling out his tablet. Rachel made copies, but she didn't notice the documents underneath. Your real estate holdings, the offshore accounts Margaret set up. Offshore accounts? You didn't know? Thomas looked genuinely surprised. Margaret established 3 accounts in the Caymans, completely legal, properly taxed. $20 million, Robert. She liquidated her inheritance from her father, invested it, never touched it. It's all in her maiden name. Emily doesn't even know it exists. 20 million. My wife had been playing a longer game than any of us. Another knock. This time I wasn't expecting it. Marcus stood in my doorway, still in scrubs from his hospital shift. We need to talk, he said, about Jonathan Hartford, and about why Margaret really invited me to that wedding. I looked at Thomas. Give us a minute. When we were alone, Marcus sat in the chair across from my desk. The same strong jaw, the same stubborn chin. My son, whom I'd kept at arm's length for 35 years. I can help you, he said simply. I know things about the Hartfords, medical things, financial things. Jonathan Hartford's been my patient for 6 months, and dying men tell their doctors everything. Why would you help me? I've been nothing to you. A check in the mail. Nothing more. Because Margaret asked me to. He pulled out his own letter, her handwriting clear. She wrote to me every month for 20 years. Told me about you, about Emily, about the family I could have had if things were different. She said when the time came, I'd know what to do. And what did she tell you to do? Protect my father, whether he wanted it or not. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Parking lot. Black Honda. 5 minutes. Come alone. Victoria. I stood up. I appreciate the offer, Marcus, but you're too proud to accept help from the son you never acknowledged? He stood too, and for a moment we were mirror images. Fine, but I'm not going anywhere. Mom asked me to watch over you, and that's what I'm doing. He left. I waited 3 minutes, then headed to the parking lot. Victoria Chen sat in the driver's seat of a black Honda Civic, looking nothing like the server from that dinner or the hotel guest at the wedding. Now she looked like what she really was, dangerous. Get in, she said. We need to talk about the Hartfords, and about my husband. Your husband, Michael Ross, the FBI agent who supposedly died in a Hartford building explosion 2 years ago, except he didn't die. He's been undercover, building a RICO case against Jonathan Hartford. We're close, Robert. So close, but we need someone on the inside. And you think I'm that someone? I think you're a man who just decided to stop being a victim. She handed me a burner phone. When you're ready to go fishing for real, call the only number in that phone. But understand, once you're in, you're all in. This isn't just about your family anymore. The Hartfords have killed 12 people that we know of. Your daughter married into a crime family. Emily doesn't know. Doesn't she? Victoria's eyes were cold. She knows enough. She chose money over love, crime over honesty. The question is, what are you going to choose? I thought of Margaret's letter. Stop reacting. Start attacking. I choose to end them, I said. All of them. Victoria smiled, sharp and dangerous. Good. Then let's talk about Hartford Tower, about the foundation work you did in 2010, and about the structural vulnerabilities you built into it, on Margaret's instructions. What? Your wife was a chess player, Robert. She's been planning this for 15... August 10th, 2025. The morning started with champagne and ended with handcuffs. Congratulations, Grandpa. Emily's voice rang through my phone at 7 a.m., fake sweetness dripping from every word. You're going to be a grandfather. Alexander and I are expecting. I sat up in bed, still groggy. What? I'm pregnant, Dad. 3 months along. The doctor says it's a boy. We're going to name him Jonathan after Alexander's grandfather. 3 months. That would mean she got pregnant before the wedding, before she even told David about Alexander. Emily, and Dad, check your email. Alexander sent you something important about the company. We're family now, so we should really be working together, don't you think? She hung up. I opened my laptop, pulled up my email. The subject line made my blood freeze. Notice of emergency shareholders meeting. The message was from Jonathan Hartford himself. Mr. Sullivan, as of 9 a.m. this morning, Hartford Industries has acquired 51% of Sullivan Construction through the purchase of additional shares from board members Patricia Reeves, Michael Stern, and Jennifer Walsh. An emergency board meeting has been called for noon today. Your presence is requested but not required. The vote will proceed with or without you. Regards, Jonathan Hartford, Chairman, Hartford Industries. My phone rang immediately. Thomas Mitchell panicked. Robert, they've blindsided us. Those 3 board members sold their shares last night for triple market value. It's legal, technically, but can we fight it? Not in time. Robert, you need to get down here. They're taking everything. I threw on clothes, raced to my office. The boardroom was already packed when I arrived at 11:45. Jonathan Hartford sat in my chair, my father's chair, skeletal and smiling like death itself. Robert, so good of you to join us for the transition. This is theft. This is business. He pushed a folder across the table. Your daughter was kind enough to provide us with some interesting documents. Seems you've been hiding assets, planning to disinherit her. A pregnant woman, your own flesh and blood. Judge Morrison found it very troubling. Rachel Thompson entered, dressed in a severe black suit, carrying a briefcase. Mr. Sullivan, she said, not meeting my eyes. I've submitted the documentation to the court. Your will, showing clear mental deterioration. The threats against your pregnant daughter. The suspicious transfers to David Chen, who I believe is currently indisposed. What have you done to David? Alexander laughed from his seat beside Emily. Mr. Chen was arrested this morning. Seems he's been stealing from construction sites, copper wire, tools, selling them for drug money. Terrible addiction problem, apparently. That's a lie. Is it? We have video evidence, witnesses, his fingerprints on the stolen goods found in his apartment. Alexander's smile was pure predator. He's looking at 5 to 10 years. My phone buzzed. Marcus, texting, get out, now. They're coming for you next. But before I could move, 2 security guards entered. Mr. Sullivan, one said, we've been instructed to escort you from the building. You're no longer an employee of Hartford Sullivan Industries. Hartford Sullivan? Emily stood up, her hand on her still flat stomach. We're rebranding, Dad. New company, new direction. And you're not part of it. Emily, sweetheart, please. Don't call me sweetheart. Her voice was ice. You chose David over me. You chose your pride over your family. Well, now you have neither. I'm your father. No, you were my father. Now you're just an old man who's lost everything. She turned to Alexander. Baby, should we tell him the rest? Alexander's grin widened. Your friend Victoria Chen, the one you've been meeting with? Turns out she's been lying to you. She's not FBI. She's not even American. She's FSB, Russian intelligence. And she's been using you to get to the Hartfords. That's impossible. Is it? Jonathan pulled out a tablet, showed me a video. Victoria in a warehouse tied to a chair, Alexander standing over her. She's been very cooperative once we explained the situation. Told us all about your little plans. The structural vulnerabilities in Hartford Tower. We've already fixed them. On the screen, Alexander leaned close to Victoria. Tell Mr. Sullivan what you told me. Victoria looked at the camera, her face bruised. Robert, I'm sorry, it was all a setup. Michael is dead. Has been for 2 years. I've been playing you. The video cut off. She's at a secure location, Jonathan said. Whether she stays alive depends entirely on your cooperation. Thomas Mitchell stood up. Robert, we should go. There's nothing more we can do here. Sit down, Thomas, Rachel said sweetly. You're implicated too, helping your client hide assets, planning fraud against a pregnant woman. The State Bar will be very interested. My phone rang. Marcus. Dad. First time he'd ever called me that. I'm at Logan Airport. They've threatened the hospital, my medical license, everything. I have to leave. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus, wait. The line went dead. I stood there in the boardroom I'd built, surrounded by enemies wearing familiar faces. My daughter, the stranger. My company, stolen. David in jail. Victoria captured. Marcus fleeing. Thomas neutralized. You have nothing left, Robert, Jonathan said, standing with effort, his cancer-ravaged body shaking. No company, no family, no allies. So here's my offer. Sign over the Greenwich house and the rest of your assets, and we'll let David go. We'll leave Thomas alone. We'll even let Victoria live. And if I don't, prison is dangerous for a young man like David. Accidents happen, especially to those without protection. He leaned on his cane. You have 24 hours to decide. Emily walked past me without a word, her hand in Alexander's, playing the perfect pregnant wife. Emily, I called after her, your mother would be ashamed. She stopped, turned back. My mother is dead. They left me standing there, security guards waiting to escort me out of my own building. 30 years of work, gone in a morning. My daughter, lost to greed. My friends scattered or captured. I pulled out my phone, looked at the last text from Victoria before they took her. If everything falls apart, remember the third letter. The third letter, Margaret's final contingency. But it was supposed to be for the one who proves worthy. As security marched me out of my building, Hartford Sullivan Industries now, I realized something. The worthy one wasn't David, wasn't Marcus. It was me. Broke. September 9th, 2025, 6 in the morning. I sat alone in my empty house, staring at Margaret's third letter, still sealed. 24 hours had passed since Jonathan's ultimatum. In 6 hours, David would be transferred to Rikers Island, where the Hartfords had people waiting. My phone, the burner Victoria had given me, suddenly came alive. Mr. Sullivan? Don't speak, just listen. The voice was male, unfamiliar, authoritative. In exactly 5 minutes, open your front door. Someone you thought was gone needs to talk to you. The line went dead. 5 minutes. I counted each second, my heart pounding. At exactly 6:05, I opened the door. Marcus stood there, very much not at Logan Airport. Hello, Dad. We need to talk, but first you should know, I never got on that plane. Haven't left Boston in 6 months, actually. Been too busy investigating the man who really killed Margaret. What? Margaret had cancer. Induced cancer. Polonium-211 cyan, in small doses over 2 years. Jonathan Hartford's signature. He's done it before. Marcus stepped inside, followed by someone else. Someone impossible. Michael Ross. Victoria's supposedly dead husband. Very much alive. Mr. Sullivan, Michael said, his FBI badge gleaming. Sorry for the deception. I've been underground for 2 years, building a case against the Hartfords. Your wife was helping us. She was our inside source. My legs gave out. I sank into Margaret's chair. Margaret was working with the FBI? For 3 years. Ever since she discovered Emily was in contact with Alexander. She came to us, told us about the Hartford money laundering through construction companies. She's the one who suggested I fake my death, go deep cover. But Victoria, the video, Alexander had her. Michael smiled, cold and sharp. My wife is many things, Mr. Sullivan. A victim isn't one of them. His phone buzzed. He checked it, grinned wider, right on time. Turn on Channel 7. I grabbed the remote, flipped to the local news. The headline made me gasp. Breaking, mass arrests at Hartford Industries headquarters. On screen, FBI agents swarmed the Hartford Tower. Alexander being led out in handcuffs. Board members arrested. And there, walking calmly beside the lead agent, very much not tied to a chair, Victoria Chen. The video was staged, Michael explained. We needed the Hartfords to think they'd won, to get overconfident. Victoria let herself get captured. Planted recording devices everywhere. We got Jonathan confessing to 19 murders, including the attempted murder of your wife. Marcus pulled out a tablet, hit play on an audio file. Jonathan's voice, clear as day, used the same dose on Margaret Sullivan as we did on the federal judge in 2018. Slow acting, undetectable unless you're specifically looking for radiation. The woman was getting too close, asking too many questions. Had to make it look natural. I couldn't breathe. He killed her. He murdered my wife. Yes, Marcus said quietly, but she knew. That's why she prepared everything. The letters, the accounts, the allies. She knew she was dying, and she made sure you'd have everything you needed to destroy them. Another knock at the door. This time it was Thomas Mitchell, but not alone. Rachel Thompson stood beside him, and she was holding up an FBI badge. Agent Rachel Martinez, she said. Sorry about the deception, Mr. Sullivan. I've been undercover in Thomas's office for 2 years. We needed someone close to the legal proceedings. So you were never pregnant with Alexander's child? God, no. That was Emily's lie, not mine. I just played along to maintain my cover, though I did make sure to record every conversation. She pulled out her phone, hit play. Emily's voice filled the room. The pregnancy test is fake, obviously. I bought it online. You can get positive ones from Chinese websites. Dad's so traditional, he'll never question a grandchild. Once I'm showing, I'll have a convenient miscarriage. Blame the stress of Dad's behavior. Alexander thinks it's real too. Men are such idiots about these things. Dear God, I whispered, my own daughter. There's more, Rachel said. Mr. Chen isn't going to Rikers. He was released an hour ago. All charges dropped. The supposed evidence was clearly planted. We have video of Hartford's men breaking into his apartment. David's free? Free and on his way here. Marcus asked him to bring something important. As if on cue, David's Honda pulled into my driveway. He got out slowly, still moving carefully from his injuries, carrying a wooden box I recognized. Margaret's jewelry box. The one she'd kept her mother's pearls in. Mr. Sullivan, David said, entering the house. His eyes widened at the crowd. What's going on? Justice, Michael Ross said. Finally. David held out the box to me. Mrs. Sullivan, Margaret gave this to me the day before she died. Said I should bring it to you when you were ready to read the third letter. She said I'd know when. I opened the box. Inside, beneath the pearls, was an envelope. But it wasn't addressed to me. For David Chen. To be opened in the presence of Robert Sullivan. It's for you, I said, handing it to David. His hands shook as he opened it. Dear David, if you're reading this, then my plan worked. You're safe. Robert knows the truth, and the Hartfords are facing justice. There's something you need to know. Your father, Chen Wei-lin, saved Robert's life in Vietnam. November 15th, 1969. Firebase ripcord. Robert was 19, terrified, bleeding out from shrapnel. Your father, a South Vietnamese soldier, carried him 3 miles through enemy territory to the medic station. They lost touch after the war, but I found your father 20 years ago. We've been in contact ever since. Your father always spoke of you with such pride. The son who chose craftsmanship over easy money, who loved with his whole heart, who never knew his father was a war hero. Robert doesn't know you're Wei-lin's son. I kept that secret because I wanted Emily to choose you for you, not because of some debt of honor. She failed that test. But you, David, you passed every test. Your love was real, your loyalty unwavering, your heart pure. The third letter, this letter was always meant for you, because you are the worthy one. The son Robert should have had, the man Emily should have chosen. In my safety deposit box, there's a second will. My personal assets, $20 million, are left to you. Not for you to keep, but to manage. To build something beautiful. Something that helps others the way your father helped Robert. Take care of my husband. He's going to need you now, more than ever. With all my love and respect, Margaret Sullivan. P.S. Your father lived to see you graduate from college. He was there in the back. I sat with him. He cried with pride. He died 2 days later, peaceful, knowing his son was a good man. David collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I knelt beside him, my own tears falling. Your father saved my life, I said. And you tried to save my daughter's soul. Marcus's phone rang. He listened, then smiled. Jonathan Hartford was just arrested at Mass General. Tried to flee but collapsed. He's cuffed to his hospital bed, charged with 19 counts of murder, racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy. And Emily? I asked. Being questioned now. The fake pregnancy, the fraud, the conspiracy to steal your company. She's looking at 10 to 15 years. Another car pulled up. Alexander's Bentley, but Alexander wasn't driving. Victoria was, still in the same clothes from the hostage video, but very much in control. She entered carrying 2 banker's boxes. Evidence. Everything. Including this. She pulled out a recording device. Alexander confessing to everything while he thought he was torturing me, including his plan to kill Emily once he had full control of both companies. She thought she was playing him. He was planning to murder her after a year of marriage. Play it, I said. Alexander's voice cold and calculating. Emily Sullivan is even stupider than her father. She thinks this fake pregnancy gives her leverage. Once the merger is complete and her father's assets are transferred, she'll have an unfortunate accident. Postpartum depression leading to suicide. Tragic, really, but necessary. I closed my eyes. My daughter had made a deal with the devil, not knowing he was planning her funeral. Michael Ross stepped forward. Mr. Sullivan, we need you to testify. Everything you know, everything Margaret told you. Will you help us? Yes, I said without hesitation. There's one more thing, Marcus said. He pulled out a document. Power of attorney over Hartford Industries. Jonathan signed it over to me as his physician when he thought I was fleeing. Didn't read the fine print. It's irrevocable. As of this morning, I control his empire. What are you going to do with it? Tear it down. Liquidate everything. Use the money to compensate the victims' families. He paused. And restore Sullivan Construction to its rightful owner. But they bought the shares with laundered money. Illegal purchases. The courts will void the sales. You'll have your company back within a month. Rachel, Agent Martinez added. Emily's marriage to Alexander is also void. Entered under false pretenses. Built on fraud. She'll have nothing. I stood in my living room, surrounded by FBI agents. My secret son, the man who should have been my son-in-law,
and the ghosts of all Margaret's carefully laid plans. She thought of everything, I whispered. No, Victoria said. She thought of everyone, except herself. She knew the cancer was artificial, knew she was dying, and spent her last days making sure everyone else would survive. David stood up, wiping his eyes. I thought of my daughter, sitting in an FBI interrogation room, her fake pregnancy exposed, her husband arrested, her schemes crumbling, the daughter Margaret and I had raised, the woman she'd chosen to become. Let her face justice, I said. But when she gets out, when she's paid for her crimes, she'll need a father. I'll be waiting. That could be 15 years, Thomas said. Then I'll wait 15 years. That's what parents do. Michael Ross's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, then looked at me. Jonathan Hartford just died. Heart attack during the arrest. He's gone. The room fell silent. The architect of so much death, dead himself. But his empire would die with him, torn down by the very people he'd tried to destroy. Mr. Sullivan, Agent Martinez said, there's going to be a press conference in an hour. The FBI wants to thank you publicly for your cooperation. Will you be there? I looked around the room, at Marcus, the son I'd never acknowledged, standing tall and proud, at David, the son-in-law I'd wanted, holding Margaret's letter, at the FBI agents who'd risked their lives for justice. Yes, I said, but first I need to do something. I walked to Margaret's portrait on the mantel, touched the frame gently. We won, sweetheart. You won. They're all safe. The truth is out. Justice is coming. I could almost hear her voice. I knew you would, my love. I always knew. The press conference was scheduled for 8 a.m. at the Federal Building. As I got dressed in my best suit, the one Margaret had picked out for our last anniversary, my phone rang. An unknown number. Dad? Emily's voice, small and broken, nothing like the cold stranger from yesterday. Emily. They told me everything. About Alexander planning to kill me. About the polonium in Mom's food. Dad, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they were murderers. But you knew they were criminals. Silence. Then yes, I knew about the money laundering. I thought it was just white-collar crime. Victimless. I was such a fool. Yes, I said simply. You were. The baby, there was never a baby. I bought the test online. Planned to fake a miscarriage later. I'm so sorry, Dad. I wanted leverage over Alexander, but he was playing me the whole time. Your mother knew. I said she knew everything, and she still loved you enough to make sure you'd survive this. How can you ever forgive me? I thought about Margaret's capacity for forgiveness, how she'd accepted Marcus, kept the secret, sent him to medical school, how she'd forgiven my betrayal 35 years ago. I don't know if I can, I said honestly, but I'm willing to try. After you've paid for what you've done. The FBI says I could get 12 years if I cooperate fully, 15 if I don't. Then cooperate. Dad, will you visit me? In prison. I closed my eyes, saw Margaret's face, heard her voice telling me about unconditional love. Every month, I promised. Every single month. She sobbed. I destroyed everything for money. Everything. No, I said, you destroyed everything for the illusion of security. But Emily, real security doesn't come from money. It comes from being someone worth loving. Your mother tried to teach you that. I know. God, I know that now. Agent Martinez says you have 1 hour to decide if you're cooperating. I already decided. I'm telling them everything. Every crime, every plan, every person involved. She paused. Dad, David really loved me, didn't he? More than you'll ever know. And I threw it away for a man who wanted me dead. Her laugh was bitter. Mom would be so disappointed. Your mother loved you unconditionally. That's why she made sure you'd survive even your worst choices. The call ended. I stood there holding the phone, thinking about second chances, about redemption, about the long road Emily would have to walk.
October 9th, 2025. The Connecticut Superior Courthouse had never seen such media attention. Every major news outlet packed the steps, cameras rolling as the most powerful crime family in New England faced justice. I sat in the gallery's front row, Marcus on my right, David on my left. Behind us, Victoria and Michael Ross, now openly together as the FBI power couple who'd brought down the Hartfords. Thomas Mitchell sat with Agent Martinez, Rachel, who'd maintained her cover until the very end. All rise, the bailiff announced, the Honorable Judge Patricia Monroe presiding. Judge Monroe, Margaret's old friend, took her seat. She'd recused herself from the Sullivan family matters, but insisted on overseeing the criminal trials. We'll begin with the sentencing of Alexander Hartford. Alexander stood, no longer the confident predator who'd invaded my home 6 months ago. Orange jumpsuit instead of Armani, shackles instead of a Rolex. His eyes found mine, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Fear. Alexander Hartford, Judge Monroe's voice rang clear. You have been found guilty on 17 counts, including conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, racketeering, fraud, assault, and attempted murder. Do you have anything to say before sentencing? Alexander turned to look at Emily, who sat 3 rows back, her face pale and drawn. 7 months pregnant now, really pregnant this time. I want to make a deal, Alexander said suddenly. I have information about other Hartford operations, international connections. In exchange for Mr. Hartford, Judge Monroe cut him off. You've already been offered and rejected 3 plea deals. This court has no interest in further negotiations. Then I want to say something to my wife. Emily stood up shakily. At 7 months pregnant, every movement was difficult. The baby was real this time. A DNA test had confirmed Alexander as the father during one of his attempts to claim innocence. You're not my husband anymore, Emily said, her voice stronger than I'd heard it in months. The marriage was annulled. Fraud, remember? That baby is still mine. No, Emily's hand went to her belly. This baby will never know you existed. My father will be the only grandfather she ever knows. Alexander's face twisted. You think you've won? You're going to prison too, Emily. That baby will be born behind bars. Actually, Agent Martinez stood up. Miss Sullivan has agreed to full cooperation with her testimony against you and the evidence she's provided. The prosecutor has recommended probation and community service. What? Alexander's voice cracked. That's impossible. She was part of everything. She was a fool, Judge Monroe said bluntly. You were a criminal. There's a significant difference. Alexander Hartford, I sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. You'll serve your time in ADX Florence, the same supermax facility where your grandfather died yesterday. The courtroom erupted. Alexander screamed something unintelligible as guards dragged him away. His eyes locked on Emily's swollen belly until the doors closed. Emily collapsed back into her seat, sobbing. I stood up, walked back to her, and for the first time in 6 months, I put my arms around my daughter. It's over, I whispered. You're safe now. Dad, I'm so sorry for everything. I know, we'll deal with that. But right now you need to think about that baby. The next case was called. In the matter of the Hartford estate and the last will and testament of Jonathan Hartford. A lawyer I didn't recognize stood up. Your Honor, we've discovered a codicil to Jonathan Hartford's will, properly witnessed and notarized, dated 1 week before his death. Marcus leaned forward. What codicil? I have power of attorney. The codicil specifically supersedes any power of attorney, the lawyer continued. He pulled out a document. Jonathan Hartford leaves his entire personal estate, valued at approximately $300 million, to David Chen. The courtroom went silent. David shot to his feet. What? That's impossible. I never even met him. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. Mr. Hartford's letter of explanation is attached. May I read it? Judge Monroe nodded. To David Chen, I am dying as I write this, and certain truths must be told. In 1969, I was a young soldier in Vietnam, stupid and scared. During a firefight at Firebase Ripcord, I was shot, left for dead by my unit. A South Vietnamese soldier named Chen Wei Lin carried me to safety, then went back and saved another American soldier, Robert Sullivan. I never forgot that debt. Years later, when I learned Chen Wei Lin had a son in America, I kept watch. You, David, became everything your father was: honorable, selfless, brave. Everything my grandson Alexander was not. I leave you my fortune not as a gift but as a burden. Use it to undo the evil I've done. Consider this my confession and my penance. Jonathan Hartford. David sank into his seat. $300 million? There's more, the lawyer said. Mr. Hartford also confessed to 19 murders in this letter, providing details that have been verified by the FBI. Even in death, he's ensuring his empire dies with him. I looked at David, this young man who'd loved my daughter truly, who'd suffered for that love, who was the son of the man who'd saved my life. David, I said, what do you want to do? He didn't hesitate. The same thing we planned with Margaret's money. Create something good from something evil. Marcus stood up. I propose we combine everything. David's inheritance from Jonathan, Margaret's $20 million, my medical expertise, and Dad's construction company. Create the Margaret Sullivan Foundation for victims of violence and their families. I second that, Victoria said. Michael and I want to be involved. We've seen too much darkness. It's time to build some light. Judge Monroe smiled. The first time I'd seen her smile since Margaret's funeral. The court approves the establishment of the Margaret Sullivan Foundation. Mr. Chen, Mr. Sullivan, Dr. Sullivan, the paperwork will be ready this afternoon. As we left the courthouse, Emily walked beside me, one hand on her belly, the other holding my arm for support. Dad, what am I going to do? A single mother with a criminal record, no money, no home. You're going to come home, I said simply. You're going to have that baby in the house where you were born. You're going to work for the foundation. Community service, remember? And you're going to learn what your mother always knew. Real wealth isn't money, it's family. After everything I did, your mother forgave me for Marcus. She forgave Marcus for existing. She forgave things I haven't even told you about. That's what love does, Emily. It forgives. 2 years later, October 9th, 2027, The Margaret Sullivan Foundation's second anniversary gala filled the grand ballroom of what used to be the Hartford Tower, now renamed the Chen Sullivan Center for Justice. I stood at the podium, looking out at 500 faces. David and Victoria sat at the head table. They'd been married 6 months ago in a simple ceremony in my backyard, under the oak tree Margaret had planted. Victoria's hand rested on her own pregnant belly, their first child due in winter. Marcus sat with his wife, a pediatric surgeon he'd met at the hospital, and their twin boys, my grandchildren, who called me Grandpa Bob, and had never known a world where their father wasn't part of the family. Emily stood near the back, holding the hand of her daughter Margaret, Maggie, now almost 2 years old. Emily had served 18 months of community service, working every day at the foundation, learning what service really meant. She lived in the small apartment above the garage, worked as the foundation's volunteer coordinator, and was studying for her social work degree at night. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, "2 years ago I lost everything. My wife to murder, my daughter to greed, my company to criminals, my faith in justice. But Margaret, my brilliant, devious, loving wife, had a plan." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew the story by now. She knew that sometimes things have to fall apart completely before they can be rebuilt correctly, like demolishing a building with a rotten foundation to build something stronger. I pulled out 3 worn envelopes. My wife left me 3 letters. The first told me to face the truth about my daughter's betrayal. The second told me to fight back. But the third, I opened the third letter again, though I'd memorized it long ago. The third wasn't for me at all. It was for David Chen, a man she knew would become family, not by blood or law but by choice, the hardest kind of family to build but the strongest. David stood up, Victoria beside him. "Mr. Sullivan, Robert, you gave me something more valuable than any inheritance. You gave me a father when I'd lost my own. You gave me a purpose when I'd lost my way. You gave me a family when I thought I'd never have one." "No," I said, "Margaret gave us all that. She saw what we could become if we chose love over money, forgiveness over revenge, building over destroying." Michael Ross, now the FBI's deputy director, raised his glass. "To Margaret Sullivan, who solved more cases dead than most agents do alive." Everyone laughed and toasted. Later, as the party wound down, I found myself alone on the balcony with Emily and little Maggie. The city sparkled below us, peaceful and bright. "Dad," Emily said quietly, "do you think Mom would be proud of what we've built?" I looked at my daughter, humbled, working hard, raising her daughter alone but surrounded by family. I thought of David and Victoria, building a life together, of Marcus, finally acknowledged and embraced, of the foundation that had already helped 300 families. "She knew we would build this," I said, "every piece of it. That's why she made sure we'd survive the demolition." Maggie tugged on my pants leg. "Grandpa, tell me about Grandma Margaret again." I picked her up, this little girl with Emily's eyes and Alexander's dark hair, but Margaret's spirit already showing through. "Your grandmother was the smartest person I ever knew," I began. "She could see the future, plan for every possibility, and love people even when they didn't deserve it." "Like Mommy?" Maggie asked innocently. Emily winced, but I squeezed her shoulder. "Exactly like Mommy. And like you, little one. Your grandmother loved you before you were even born, knew you'd exist, and made sure you'd have everything you needed." What did I need? I looked around at our rebuilt family. Blood and choice, traditional and unconventional, broken and healed. "A family that knows how to forgive," I said. "A family that chooses love over money, always. A family that builds instead of destroys." As we went back inside, I stopped at Margaret's portrait, now hanging in the foundation's lobby. Below it, a plaque with her favorite quote: "The strongest structures aren't those that never fall, but those rebuilt with wisdom from the ruins." I touched the frame gently. "We did it, sweetheart. We rebuilt everything. Stronger than before." I could almost hear her voice, warm and knowing. "I never doubted you would, my love. Not for a moment." The end. But really, it was just the beginning. The Margaret Sullivan Foundation would go on to help thousands of families. David and Victoria would have 3 children. Marcus would become the chief of surgery at Mass General. Emily would become a social worker, dedicating her life to helping women escape abusive relationships. And me, I lived to see 4 grandchildren, 5 if you count Marcus's twins, and 6 if you count the day David and Victoria named their second son Robert. I lived to walk Emily down the aisle again, 8 years later when she married a good man, a teacher who loved Maggie as his own. I lived to see Alexander Hartford die in prison, alone and unmourned. But most importantly, I lived to understand what Margaret had always known. The real measure of wealth isn't in bank accounts or stock portfolios. It's in the people who'll stand with you in the ruins and help you rebuild. And by that measure, I'd become the richest man in Connecticut. No, in the world.